Today, a significant escalation in the ongoing Middle East conflict has reached the Mediterranean. A British Royal Air Force base at Akrotiri in Cyprus has been struck by a suspected strike drone, officials confirmed early this morning. According to the Cypriot president and British authorities, an unmanned Iranian-made drone impacted the runway at RAF Akrotiri shortly after midnight, causing limited damage but no casualties. It is the first reported strike on a British military installation on European territory in decades. The RAF Akrotiri base plays a pivotal role in regional defense operations and has been used as a strategic hub for monitoring and responding to tensions in the Middle East. This incident comes amid a broader conflict that began with strikes following Iranian retaliatory actions after recent U.S.-Israeli operations. British Defense Ministry officials state their forces are responding to a live situation, engaging protective measures and remaining on high alert, with additional deployments of defensive systems in the region. Cypriot authorities also activated security protocols, with local residents reporting explosions and sirens in the early hours, heightening concern and fear among civilians near the base. The United Kingdom has emphasized it is not at war, even as it granted the United States access to its military facilities, including Cyprus, for defensive operations aimed at disrupting Iranian missile infrastructure. Prime Minister Keir Starmer clarified that Britain's role remains limited to supporting defensive actions and safeguarding regional stability without direct offensive involvement. Yet critics and experts warn that such actions can draw allied nations closer to broader confrontations, creating a complex geopolitical environment. Meanwhile, European leaders are monitoring developments closely. Some NATO members have reaffirmed their commitment to defense cooperation, while also urging restraint and diplomatic efforts to prevent further escalation. The incident at Akrotiri highlights how rapidly the conflict zone is expanding, not only across the Middle East, but also into the Mediterranean. As military and political leaders continue deliberations, local communities near strategic bases like Akrotiri are left with uncertainty and concern about what might happen next. For now, no further details regarding the origin of the drone beyond the suspicion of Iranian involvement have been publicly confirmed by all parties. This event raises critical questions about the future trajectory of regional hostilities and the potential for wider consequences. As governments and analysts assess the situation, the world watches closely. Beyond the immediate damage assessment, military analysts are now focused on what this strike represents strategically. RAF Akrotiri is not just another overseas installation, it serves as a forward operating base for British air operations across the Middle East. From surveillance missions to logistical coordination, its role has been central in recent regional developments. A strike on such a base, even if limited in damage, sends a message. It signals capability, it signals reach, and perhaps most importantly, it signals intent. Security experts suggest that drone warfare has dramatically changed the nature of modern conflict. Unmanned aerial systems are relatively inexpensive compared to traditional aircraft, yet they can bypass air defenses and strike with precision. Their use allows actors to project power while maintaining plausible deniability. If confirmed as Iranian-linked, this strike could mark a significant expansion of the conflict's geographic footprint. For Cyprus, the situation is particularly delicate. Although the island is not directly engaged in combat, it hosts British sovereign base areas, remnants of colonial agreements that still function as strategic military hubs. This makes Cyprus geographically close to Middle Eastern flashpoints and politically connected to Western defense structures. Residents near Akrotiri describe being awakened by loud sounds and unusual aircraft activity. Some reported flashes in the sky. Others said they heard rapid military response sirens shortly after midnight. For civilians, even limited military incidents create psychological impact. Schools near the area are reviewing security procedures. Local authorities have reassured the public that the situation is under control, but uncertainty remains. In London, defense officials held emergency consultations throughout the night. Intelligence teams are analyzing debris fragments, radar data, and satellite imagery to confirm the drone's origin. Meanwhile, diplomatic channels are active. Back-channel communications between European capitals, Washington, and regional governments aim to prevent further escalation. Public statements emphasize restraint, but behind closed doors, strategic calculations are intensifying. The United Kingdom faces a complex balancing act. On one hand, it must demonstrate that attacks on its military installations will not be unanswered. On the other, it must avoid being drawn into a broader war that stretches beyond its initial commitments. Prime Minister Keir Starmer reiterated that Britain's objective remains stability and defense, not expansion of hostilities. However, analysts note that even defensive positioning can trigger retaliatory cycles in volatile regions. NATO officials have not announced formal collective defense measures, but discussions are reportedly underway regarding air defense coordination in the eastern Mediterranean. This incident also highlights how modern warfare blurs traditional boundaries. A conflict that began in one region can rapidly extend into another theater. A drone launched hundreds of miles away can alter strategic calculations across continents. Financial markets reacted cautiously in early trading hours. Energy prices experienced slight volatility as traders evaluated potential risks to regional shipping routes and production facilities. Air traffic monitoring agencies also reviewed flight paths across parts of the Mediterranean, though commercial aviation operations continue without major disruption. Military experts caution against immediate conclusions. One strike, especially one that caused no casualties, does not necessarily indicate full-scale escalation. It may represent signaling rather than sustained engagement. Yet symbolism matters in geopolitics. A direct hit on a British RAF base, even a limited one, carries symbolic weight far beyond the physical damage. It raises questions about air defense systems. It tests political resolve. It challenges alliance cohesion. For Iran, if involvement is confirmed, the action could be framed domestically as a demonstration of deterrence capability. For Britain and its allies, the response must be calibrated, strong enough to discourage repetition, but measured enough to avoid wider confrontation. Regional observers are also watching how Israel and the United States interpret this development. Given existing tensions and recent operations, strategic responses are interconnected. Cyprus now finds itself in an uncomfortable spotlight. The island has historically balanced its relationships carefully, maintaining ties within the European Union while hosting key Western military facilities. This balance may become more complicated if the Eastern Mediterranean becomes increasingly militarized. Business owners near the base express concern about tourism impact if tensions persist. Cyprus relies heavily on international visitors, and perceptions of instability can influence travel decisions quickly. Security analysts emphasize that drone technology proliferation has lowered barriers for strategic signaling. Compared to ballistic missiles or manned aircraft, drones allow limited strikes that can be scaled up or down depending on response. This creates a new type of deterrence chess game, incremental moves rather than immediate large-scale escalation. As night turns to morning in Cyprus, the runway at Akrotiri is being inspected and repaired. Engineers are assessing structural integrity. Surveillance remains heightened. Officials confirm no loss of life, a critical factor in preventing immediate escalation. But the psychological and strategic impact may linger longer than physical damage. Across Europe, policymakers are debating contingency scenarios. What if additional drones are launched? What if maritime assets in the Mediterranean are targeted? What if regional militias become involved? Each question adds layers of complexity. The coming days will likely determine whether this incident becomes a brief headline or the opening chapter of a broader confrontation. For now, governments urge calm, military forces remain alert, diplomats remain engaged, and citizens both in Cyprus and across Europe wait for clarity. In moments like this, restraint becomes as important as strength. The world has seen how quickly regional conflicts can spiral beyond their original scope. What happens next will depend not only on military capability, but on political judgment. As investigations continue and global leaders weigh their options, one reality is undeniable. The strike on RAF Akrotiri has expanded the map of tension. Whether it also expands the scale of conflict remains to be seen. The Mediterranean, long considered a buffer between regions, now feels closer to the center of unfolding events. And as uncertainty hangs in the air, the international community watches carefully.